My next patron question is from Asian Avenger, who wanted to know about a recent rule change for the Oscars. Recently, the Academy Awards created a set of rules that in order for a film to be eligible for the Best Picture nomination, it needed to meet some diversity requirements for underrepresented groups. Although I appreciate the fact that Hollywood wants to give more of a voice to those that haven't had as much of a chance to shine, I don't think that it's right to put this in front of things like the filmmaking aesthetics, screenwriting, characterizations, and performances, which are obviously the most important aspects to consider when determining the quality of a film. Besides, there are plenty of Best Pictures that I enjoyed despite not having diverse casts because I thought they were great films, and if there is a film that is truly spectacular despite not having diversity requirements, I don't think it should be passed over in favor of a film that does, even if it's of lesser quality. What do you think about the Academy Awards decision regarding diversity requirements for Best Picture? Do you think it's right to focus on that as opposed to the quality of the film itself? Like the question says, the Academy recently announced a set of requirements films need to pass to be eligible for Best Picture. Submitted films need to fulfill 2 of those 4 requirements, and while it seems like this would prevent movies from being allowed to compete, they're actually really easy to accomplish without the production company and filmmakers needing to do any extra work. I remember when this rule was announced, and there was some hubbub about, oh, so the Irishman would not have been eligible. However, The Irishman would absolutely have been eligible for Best Picture, so I'll use that as my main example as I go over the requirements one by one. Again, films only need to accomplish 2 of these 4. The first requirement is related to on-screen representation, themes, and narratives, and it only has to fulfill 1 of these 3, the first of which says that at least only one lead actor or significant supporting actor is from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Among those listed is Hispanic or Latin American, and Bobby Cannavale, who is 6 billed, is half Cuban. So that's the first requirement already accomplished by The Irishman. Let's go to Standard B then, titled Creative Leadership and Department Heads. Like Standard A, it just needs to do one of 2 things. The first of which says at least 2 creative leadership positions and department heads are from the following underrepresented groups. Again, The Irishman passes that easily. Jane Rosenthal and Emertilla Jerkuska were 2 of the credited producers on the film. Ellen Lewis was the casting director. Regina Graves was the set decorator. Sandy Powell designed the costumes. And of course, Thelma Schoonmaker, Martin Scorsese's longtime editor, edited the movie. In fact, it's very common on a film set for the casting director, costume designer, and key makeup artist to be a woman. Some of what are considered among the best films ever made, like Star Wars, Jaws, Lawrence of Arabia, Bonnie and Clyde, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and Pulp Fiction, were edited by women. Meanwhile, Standard B also requires that at least 1 key creative position on the film belong to someone in an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. And the cinematographer for The Irishman was Rodrigo Prieto, who is Mexican and thus fulfills that criteria. So if you were the company that made The Irishman, you've done all you need to do to be eligible for Best Picture. The next 2 requirements, aimed more at the distributors or production companies, relate to the hiring of people in underrepresented groups, but most of them already have these in place at this point anyway. The Irishman was distributed by Netflix, and if you go on their website, they have inclusion and diversity programs related to hiring from specific groups. Netflix even has a report on their website stating that in 2022, 52.9% of their employees in the United States were from historically excluded racial and or ethnic backgrounds. I remember when the Academy first announced these rules, and when I read through them, I realized that not a single movie being released nowadays has to change anything both in front of or behind the camera. Your favorite movies of this year will still be eligible. The only movie that would not be allowed to compete is a film made by misogynistic Ku Klux Klan members, and this hypothetical film probably would not even be considered for Oscars to begin with. You have to try really hard to make a movie that does not have someone in the cast or crew or working at the production company that is not a woman or part of an underrepresented racial group, especially with Hollywood already making attempts before this rule change to diversify the entertainment industry. Thank you for your question, Asian Avenger.